Today, I want to welcome Lee Judge to my expert interview series. Lee is a content marketing expert, keynote speaker, and co-founder of Content Monsta, a content marketing video and podcast production agency that specializes in content that drives business. He's the author of an upcoming book, C.A.S.H, Keys to Creating an Effective Revenue Machine. Welcome, Lee. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Pleasure to be here.
I've got a number of questions. If you're ready, we can jump right in.
Let's go for it.
So you have a unique background. I'm not sure everybody knows this, but you started in the music business. Can you just share a little bit about that, how you got into marketing?
It's an interesting journey, but oddly enough, it is all kind of connected. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and so I was a DJ starting in like 10th grade. My first contracts were with the high school that I was still going to. And so same thing happened in college. So I was always marketing. I just never called it that. I didn't know it was marketing, but I was always trying to figure out how to get more attention, more customers, more sales. It was always about marketing. Even when in college, I had kind of the market locked down as I was doing all kinds of parties from frat parties to bar mitzvahs to birthday parties. And even the university had me under contract as the DJ for the university. So freshman orientation. So at one point, I began having to create databases to store my clients. And that was my first kind of marketing operations job. And so I moved to Atlanta, mainly chasing after the music industry. I was doing some production work. I was in the radio at the time. It just so happens while I was still trying to get my footing in Atlanta, I was offered a marketing job. I took this marketing job. It was, entry level, but they liked that I could help them organize their customers. And I ended up building 7 or 8 customer relationship management systems for them, CRMs. Now, at this time, I didn't know what a CRM was. I didn't know the programming language SQL that I was using. All I knew was I was using Microsoft Access to build databases for this company. From there, it just kind of escalated. And as you'll see in the book you mentioned, I even talked about how I got a job after that. And the CEO knew what I knew more than I did. I didn't know that I could manage a Salesforce instance, or that I could build databases, or that I even knew SQL as a programming language. He did, and that's when my marketing career really took off. So it's a long kind of story, kind of tied together, but every little piece of it, from touring as a DJ to running content for my businesses, they all kind of build up to where I am today.
And these days, you're known as an expert podcaster. You've had interviews with notable people like Seth Godin, Guy Kawasaki, Rand Fishkin, Mark Schaefer. Your company, Content Monsta, supports businesses with their own content engines. What do you think are the absolute most important factors for delivering inspiring content that people want to tell others about?
I think the biggest factor is understanding what will help them the most. What information do you have in use? It could even be things that you don't think a lot of, but if it's in you and it can help someone else, understanding that connection between what you know, what you can provide, and what they need. If you can make that connection, that's probably the most simplest, lowest level connection between bringing a service or product to market, is filling that need. And it could be just information or your presence or sharing what you know.
I'm wondering, how are you leveraging AI these days to grow your business and your clients' businesses? You and I met a few months back at the Uprising, Mark Schaefer's event for marketing leaders. You spoke there about AI. Just love for you to kind of go over how you guys are leveraging it.
I've been meaning to actually sit down and list out all the ways we're using it, because it's becoming like the internet. It's like, Lee, how do you use the internet for business? I mean, how do I not use it, right? It's every part of it. It touches it like electricity, like every part of it. But to try to summarize it, everything from research to accelerating the processes that we do. I'll give you some quick examples. We have a client who we do a podcast from them that's based on their research. Their research could be a 30-page white paper. How do you get that down to a conversation? Well, we use AI to distill that down to a certain number of questions based off of the H2 tags, for example, that's in the document that AI can read. Give us 3 questions of a certain length that cover a certain amount of topic, and we can basically feed a research document in and get an outline for a conversation for a podcast. So that's text-based. Let's talk about audio. When it comes to audio, we often have clients who, they may capture content that isn't ideal in terms of audio. There's all kinds of AI that can detect voice versus noise versus other sounds. Whereas a year or two ago, I remember spending probably an hour trying to remove a police siren under someone's voice when they were talking and a police siren went by. Now we can use AI to say, this is a voice, this is a siren, take the siren out. Video. We did a project recently where we recorded over 200 videos of financial advisors, and they had to stick to a very strict script. In order to do that, they had to look at the script, but we wanted them to also make eye contact with the camera without having to send out teleprompters to 200 different people. So we used AI there to correct their eye line, to bring their eyes up to the camera. So there you go, from video to audio to text.
I saw you recently taught marketing students at the University of Tennessee about AI and leadership and marketing. Just wondering how that went.
It's funny you ask that because the talk wasn't supposed to be specifically about AI, but how do you talk future without talking about AI? Right. So we're talking to these students. Most of them are grad students. They're about to enter the world, in the business world, the working world. But what's different today is if you are a year or two from graduation, which is where some of these were, some of them were just later on this year, the speed at which things are changing because of AI, their jobs will be very different by the time they graduate in just 2 years. For old dudes like you and I, something could come up, we could have 4 years to study for it, get a degree in it, and go to work, and that thing is still the same or close to the same. But now I warned them, I said, first of all, even though you're a couple of years from getting your master's or graduating, even now, the job you're aiming for may not exist. There may be some job that doesn't exist yet that you'll be doing, or one of them, the job you're aiming for may be eliminated because of AI. So there's positive and negative there. So my point was, keep an eye on where your target is moving. Like if you're looking to move in this area of marketing, keep an eye on how AI is going to change that trajectory of where you should be aiming for.
I'm going to switch topics on you because I'd love to dive into the book now, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I was privileged to be interviewed for the upcoming book, and I just wondered if you can just introduce it, tell us a little bit more about it and its premise.
Okay, well, first I'll tell you who the book is for. It is for salespeople who need to understand marketing, and for marketers who need to understand sales, and for the leaders who lead those organizations, whether it be marketing or sales or both. It talks about the both part, the chief revenue officer, for example, where that came from, how you can understand if you're a marketer to make sure what you do matters to the bottom line, matters to sales. If you're in sales, how can you help marketing help you? And if you're that leader, how do you get these two teams to work together optimally to make sure you have a revenue machine or revenue team rather than just a sales team and a marketing team? The gray area between those two is getting bigger every day. And a good marketer must understand sales. A good salesperson must understand marketing, and a good leader needs to understand both. So that's the main premise of the book.
It's called C.A.S.H. It's cash for reasons. The C stands for communication, the A is alignment, S is systems, and H is honesty. You present 4 keys to a cohesive sales and marketing effort. Can you dig into the C.A.S.H. keys a little bit in your framework?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the subtitle is still working. It may change by the time you hear this podcast, but it is 4 keys of. So cash, yes, communication, alignment, systems, and honesty. The communication part covers how, as a marketer, you can understand what sales is doing out in the field, and how sales can communicate that back to marketing. Because again, it's one machine, right? So not only does marketing need to understand how to speak sales in a way that sales will accept them. In other words, if you're a marketer in a meeting and you're presenting information, it needs to have some what's in it for me for the sales team. They have to actually see numbers that mean something to them. That's communication from the marketing standpoint. From a sales standpoint, they need to be able to make sure that while they're on the front line talking to customers, all that information, right down to how the customer names your product or service, has to come back to the marketing team. That all comes together in the communication section. We also cover content marketing. Our friend Joe Polizzi has a segment in there where he came in and he gave some advice on content marketing and how that affects sales. and marketing. And then the alignment part, are you being measured by the same KPIs? What we often see is marketing has their measurement, their MQLs and their followers and likes and all these kind of things that mean a lot to marketing, but may not mean a lot to sales. At the same time, sales is looking at accounts and opportunities and sales qualified leads and closing deals. That may not be the language that your marketing is using or being measured by. So the alignment part is making sure that you're not only working in the same direction, but you're also measured by some common variables to make sure that you're aligned. The systems part, I worked in operations a long time, in marketing operations, sales operations, and I found a lot of broken systems where the systems comprise of the people and the software. So on the technology side, you have breakdowns of your marketing automation platform not tied into your CRM, your analytics aggregator not viewing both all of those. There's a lot of marketing and sales operations things that companies need to really understand and make sure that those systems, those technology systems, are working together. And then the people side, the people must understand how they should contribute to these systems. I once had a salesperson say, I'm not going to spend time putting information in Salesforce. That's an administrative job. But they didn't understand that this is the human part of the system, to where in order for them to get the best results from marketing and to speed up the velocity of closing those deals, we need that data in the system, right? So there's a people part of that as well. We talk in the book about even little things like licensing. I've been in organizations where marketing didn't have license to Salesforce. Salesforce didn't have license to the market automation platform. Those things sound like financial issues, but it's a visibility issue where you can't do your complete job. You don't want your salesperson going on a sales call not knowing that their client just left the webinar and studied their product, right? You don't want that. So that's the systems part. The last part is honesty. The H in cash is for honesty. And it's not so much that people are lying about things. It's about, is the company honest about the reporting and the processes they have in place to either reward, attribute, or give credit to the individuals involved in creating this revenue? What I mean by that is, um, are your reports written in a way that support the company, or do they support that team? If you're in marketing, do you make a marketing report that makes marketing look good? Or do you make a report that's honestly saying what's been done, how it affects the bottom line or not? All those four things come together: communication, alignment, systems, and honesty. That's where the term or the framework C.A.S.H came from. And I think anybody who consumes this book will be a better marketer, a better salesperson, a better leader for doing so.
When you talk about communication, the thing that comes to mind is sometimes sales and marketing don't speak the same language. You mentioned KPIs. Not having similar KPIs is a problem, but not even, understanding things in the same way. And, sometimes we call things MarCom, marketing communication, or
Yeah.
nailing your ICP, going out after high intent leads, building up
Yeah.
case studies, and all of this is like marketing speak. They're like, what are you talking about? How does that benefit me?
Yeah, I addressed that in two places in the book. The communication part, like for example, what is a conversion? Now, to marketing, a conversion could be someone going from unknown to known. They went from somebody we didn't know, they completed a form, they converted. It's a marketing conversion. We know who they are, we know about them. That's a marketing conversion. You don't say that to sales though, because sales, a conversion is they went from a non-customer to a customer, right? So just by saying conversions, imagine going into a meeting as a marketer with a report that says, here are our number of conversions to a sales team. It's like going in front of a firing squad. You've really messed up if you do that. So that's
Yeah.
a communication error there in terms of terminology. Even on the operations side, we see systems that have built-in terminology. Like if you buy a CRM, if you buy a market automation, whether it be like HubSpot, Marketo, Pardot, and tie that to Salesforce or Soho, whatever, what's going to happen is they're going to have their own terminologies. In one system, it's called a contact. In another, it's called a lead. You have to know what they really mean and know how to tie those systems together that's meaningful, so that when they transfer from one system, one technology system to the next, it makes sense. And that the big picture is your customer journey has to be tracked no matter how many systems you have. you should be able to see when you first met that person, when they first actually contacted with you, like from that first quote unquote marketing conversion, all the way through to the opportunity. Everything that you can track, things are hard to track nowadays, but everything you can track should be on that one record. I've seen cases where there was a record in the marketing automation platform and then a brand new record created in the CRM, which was totally, it started day one, as if that person just became known to you when they open up an opportunity, totally disconnected from all the marketing interactions they had. That happens where companies are just that disjointed on their systems. And so that part of the book is probably one of the thicker parts because that's one place where companies really break down at.
And customers are just thinking about their own journey. They expect it to be unified. They're expecting this brand to provide one single experience, and oftentimes they don't get that. So I love your approach because I think it's really going to help.
I got to give you your credit because that's the quote I think that got into the book from you, that the
Okay.
customer doesn't have two or three journeys. The customer has one journey. And when you said that, I said, you know what? That's the quote for the book. So when you get the book, look for Aaron's quote. That is in there.
Thank you. Appreciate the attribution there. I want to talk to you about a current issue and topic du jour that's really, stressing out marketers. These days, marketing budgets are increasingly scrutinized, and companies expect marketing to be revenue generators and deliver clear ROI. What impact you feel this has had on maybe the traditional role of marketing, our strategic leadership, also in both brand and demand?
Even we've been impacted by that because our client champions tend to be CMOs, VP of marketing. And while we've been able to maintain the clients, we've seen our champions rotate. We've got one company where we're probably on our third VP of marketing and second CMO. I think the numbers are that the CMO's tenure is about 2.5 years average now. Part of that problem is because CMOs traditionally have come from such a marketing background that their analytics and their connection to sales is weak. As was pointed out by Matt Crisp in the book, he sold a company called eVestment Alliance. He had an exit a few years back, did very well. And he told me about their organization and when he began hearing the term CRO or Chief Revenue Officer. And he pointed out that the CMO path is kind of the top of the marketing pile, but doesn't get much higher in the C-suite. Whereas a chief revenue officer who understands sales and marketing has a eye line, a path to get to CEO, but marketing doesn't. So that's a good explanation of why we've seen some of this disruption lately, is because marketers traditionally, now it's changing, and it's what we need to really adopt right now, is that marketers haven't been bottom line or sales focused. Like we've been patting ourselves on the back over vanity metrics, followers, MQLs, likes, how many people sign up for a trade show. But we haven't been held to the fire as enough, I think, on the bottom line. So that has been, I think, the biggest impact. Marketers really have to be focused on understanding sales. They have to really understand, why are we marketing? We're marketing for the business, not for the sake of marketing, not for great marketing numbers or reports. We're marketing for the business. And you ask about brand. Well, the brand typically is owned by marketing. What happens is we have to work harder to make sure that all those soft metrics that are hard to attribute to a sale, we have to work harder at figuring out how to measure lift. Lift meaning you won't be able to specifically attribute first touch, middle touch, last touch. That kind of attribution's slowly fading away. But what you do have to get better at measuring is, if we did or did not do this campaign, how has the brand lift changed? Has the brand lifted? Are we getting larger overall numbers in terms of awareness or leads coming in? Those are things that are really hard to calculate and show management, but we have to get better at doing those things. It's a must that we do it, because if we stick to what's easy to measure, that's where we're going to fail.
The great Peter Drucker once said that there are only two primary functions of business, which is marketing and innovation. What do you think CEOs and CFOs maybe miss about marketers?
Time. And this will probably never change, but I mean, businesses are always under pressure to perform and deliver quickly, right? and most don't have the patience to do good marketing.
Hmm.
Good marketing takes time. Good marketing takes either one of two things: either time, which means that you have long-term plans to gain the know, like, and trust of someone, so they know your brand, they like your brand, they trust your brand, which you don't do that from one commercial. You don't do that from coin in, result out marketing advertising. It doesn't happen. It's a long play. The other thing is we have to be a bit bolder, because some of the most successful marketing campaigns were the ones that were not planned, right? The ocean spray guy on the skateboard, not planned, right? These are things that were great marketing results, but they weren't planned. And if they had planned it, if someone had said that a year before, let's do this kind of video, they would have said, well, there's insurance with the guy on a skateboard, and we'll get liability for on the highway. And okay, well, we'll pay some influencers. Which influencers do we get? Meanwhile, 6 months, a year has gone by with all this planning, and the competitors beat you out. So that speed to catch the trends and do things quickly is what the executive suite can do to let marketing react and act faster. They need to loosen the reins a little bit, because we've seen time and time again the organizations that did not mind taking a bit more risk and giving marketing a little more leeway to try new things, they're going to win.
Lee, this conversation has been a treat. I appreciate your insights. How can those listening get on your pre-sale list and find out more about you and the new book?
We're going to launch a website, and this website, you'll be able to go and see an assessment of how your company is doing. So the book is called C.A.S.H, but we have a website called takethecashtest.com. So if you go to takethecashtest.com, you can answer 12 questions and see how is your company doing with communication, alignment, systems, and honesty. Takethecashtest.com. Also, if you can go to my website, aleejudge.com /cash, you'll be able to register to get on the list for the book. The release date has not been set yet, but it is coming soon. And those who pre-register for the book will get some special insights before the book comes out. Going to do some special promotions before the book comes out. I'll give you a hint. The book is called C.A.S.H, so there may be some incentives there for getting the book early. And then if you want to figure out where you or your company stands, takethecashtest.com.
I hope everyone, takes the assessment, picks up the book. Again, thank you for taking the time to answer the questions today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you.